Good evening and welcome to Open Your Mind Radio. Myself, Alan James.
And myself, Stephen George. And apologies for just the beginning there. We're in studio too, so nothing ever works right down here. So bear with us, please.
Welcome to Open Your Mind Radio. As Steve said, we are in Studio 2. Guest that we're going to have on the show tonight, we're going to have Walter Graham. Walter is a good friend of OYM Radio, and Walter has been on the show a few times, and we haven't spoken to Walter in a long time, so it'd be great catching up with Walter and seeing what he's been up to. We also, at the end of the show, we have a chap called Cian Foley. And Cian's going to be on the Open Mind Conference in Waterford on March the 2nd, 3rd and the 4th. So we're going to be speaking to him to find out what his background is and what he's going to be talking about on the conference. But before we crack on and get talking to Walter and talk about a few bits and pieces, let's find out what the communication channels are.
Yes, 0469271212 is the phone number, but unfortunately we're not in Studio 1 this evening, we are in Studio 2, so that phone line will not work. If you do ring it, you will get an answering service, so if you do want to leave us a message, you're more than welcome. We do have the chat rooms on OYMradio.com. You will see the links on the left-hand side. You can log in there if you are registered. If not, you can scoot on over to peoplesinternetradio.com. They have the chat room over there as well, and we are monitoring both of the chat rooms for your questions this evening. We also have the usual links on the website there to Facebook, the anti-social media, Twitter, also to the YouTube channel, and plenty of information on there as well. Do check us out on the Facebook page. If you want to befriend us, we do put up quite a bit of information, and lots of information comes in as well through the Facebook page, so make sure if you are on the anti-social media, that is the place to be. Alan.
Right, okay, just a couple of things that we're going to talk about before we bring Walter in. The first thing will be the censorship on Facebook and YouTube, and I'm sure you heard about it, that Facebook and YouTube are cutting down all the alternative media. And Facebook, I think, want to just focus on people's friends and family and sharing information, and remove the likes of alt media information on our websites, Facebook websites. And also YouTube are not only cutting down on the numbers, so you're not actually seeing the exact numbers that your people tuning into your YouTube videos, but also they're making it hard for when you're doing searches to find the information that you want. So I just think it's time now that we need to start looking at an alternative platform, Facebook and YouTube, and move away, because that's the only way they're going to learn, if people move away from using them. So myself and Steve are actively looking around for platforms. DTube was one of the websites that we were looking at as a potential. You can have earnings. It's on a blockchain, the Steam blockchain. It looks potentially good. We need to do a bit more research into it. We need to find out a bit more about the technical side and all that kind of stuff. So we want to look out for that. The likes of Facebook, the kind of what we have to look at is, do we use another platform similar to Facebook, which there's a few out there, or do we come up with our own platform? I don't know. We'll just have to check it out and see. But we'll see what happens anyway. Steve, over to you for number 2.
Number 2. Yes, I'm going for a number 2. Jared Rand interview. Randy Kramer talks about the healing machine, Elysium movie 3. Am I on the right thing here?
Right, okay, let me just, I kind of abbreviated that a little bit on the script.
Let's just Alan gives me a piece of paper, it is a piece of paper, with the unscripted script on, the show notes, as we call them, and before we went live, we had a little bit of a technical difficulty with the stream, so unfortunately we didn't get time to touch base on the abbreviation, so... Please enlighten me.
Well, you know about we had Randy Kramer on the show, and Randy Kramer was saying that he was on a mission to Mars. He was a soldier there, and he had these healing machines where basically they, if you had your arm blown off, they'd regenerate. Now, if you think about it, they know about starfish and there's certain other animals that when you chop off a leg or whatever, it regrows. Now, it's obvious to me anyway, and Steve as well, that, scientists would look at this and say, well, how can this be done from a human point of view? So they obviously have these technologies there. And in the movie Elysium, they had this machine where you'd actually be healed. You lie down and whatever ailment or disease that you had, you are cured. Now, during the week, I put out a link to a video, and I talked about this machine called the MedBed. And this chap called Gerard Rand, obviously from the Rand Corporation, was talking about this, and that they have this technology. And there was 3 levels on this bed. The first one was to be able to heal you. So any disease or any symptom that you had, you could be healed. The second part was enhancements. If you wanted to be taller, you wanted to be skinnier, you wanted hair, or anything like that, you could have these enhancements, and they could do the enhancements as well. And the third thing was that they could reverse age you. So if you wanted to go back to 25 and 35 and all that, you could do that. Now, you'd have to be psychologically assessed, because if you think about it, you don't want to be younger than your kids.
No.
And there are a number of people that when they interviewed and talked to, they said, yeah, I'll go for the healing, but I don't want to be older than my kids, and no, I've done my life, and I'm ready to, move on or whatever. So there has to be kind of some psychology in there where you have to be sat down and talked to, because it will have a major impact on your life, especially if you go back in your age. So this is called the MedBed, and if you go to YouTube and type in Gerard Rand, you'll find his YouTube videos there, and you hear him talking about this. So it's quite interesting. Or if you go up to Facebook page, we have it posted up there. You'll see it anyway. So that was quite interesting to listen to him. And he said he hopes that there'll be a rollout of this technology within the next 10 years, give or take. Now, they're looking for people to sponsor and looking for people to actually build these machines, get the money to build the machines, and hopefully they'll have one where you just walk in and like a clinic, But yeah, we live in hope. We'll see what happens anyway. But how's your week?
My week's been fine. Yeah, I mean, okay. Tonight I've had a near heart attack, but okay, that's neither here nor there. Just a very few things to mention actually. Mainstream, I just have some information here from naturalnews.com, which it's a great website if you want some kind of news that you can kind of mull around in your grey matter. But it says here, saying mainstream media attacking football as unsafe for the brain, saying nothing about brain-damaging mercury in vaccines. There's a great article there. Now, it's kind of based on American football, but I mean, football is football, and people do get knocks to the brains. And they go on to say that there's even in the US, infants are routinely given flu vaccines which still contain the hazardous ingredients in amounts that can be damaging. That's the mercury / thimerosal. But that's not spoken about. They say mainstream continues to purport that all vaccines are 100% safe, but even water is dangerous in the wrong amounts. And they say, how can anyone honestly say that there is no danger in injecting infants, toddlers and children with 25 micrograms of mercury? So I mean, that's kind of interesting. The fact that mainstream will jump on and say the likes of football is dangerous, and anything where you may get kind of a blow to the head is dangerous, but yet they won't kind of... You mentioned the likes of that to them, and they're not interested. So yeah, it's worthwhile thinking about. The next one is actually there's when I used to work in kind of the health sector in a kind of previous life, there was a drink that when anyone was kind of recovering from an operation, or from, let's say, they were elderly and they just needed building up, they used to give them a drink called Ensure. And Ensure was the buzzword at the time. Now, this is going back maybe 15 plus years ago. And they were kind of saying, this was a great thing to build up people who are on the mend or undernourished. But it's now come out that this drink, Ensure, they're saying how hospitals keep their patients sick by feeding them Ensure, a junk food nutrition shake. And the article there, again, it's on another website here called newstarget.com, and it goes into all the details of exactly what's in this shake and why it's not as good as it's made out to be. But of course, like everything else, it was kind of bigged up by the people who invented it. The medical people took it on board and kind of ran with it. And obviously there's little backhanders, and there's money, put it this way, there's money going into the system somewhere. Yeah, so some people in the profession are benefiting from it. So, yeah, that's kind of interesting. So, I mean, we all know someone who's sick or needs building up. Maybe it's an elderly relative or a loved one who may be in hospital. But yeah, if you see them getting the likes of that stuff, maybe steer away from it, because it's just junk. And actually read another article also today, which is kind of coming in handy for me this evening. It's tips to deal with stress and anxiety.
Oh, we needed that just before the show.
Yeah, so I need to get more sleep. I need to get 7 to 8 hours sleep. I need to exercise more, and I need to try not to worry too much. Which is, when we had a little faux pas earlier on, I had a blank expression on my face. But yeah, anyone who's kind of anxious or nervous, seemingly you can suffer with dread, upset stomach, difficulty breathing, and to manage this feeling of being overwhelmed, it says you first need to acknowledge what you are going through. You may feel helpless right now, but don't forget that your anxiety will pass. There's a lot of information, obviously, on that. But yeah, we obviously after the Christmas and all, because of all the late nights and whatever, we're probably not back into the old working routine as of yet. I know I'm not. I'm still kind of finding it difficult to get a sleep at night, but we need to get 7 to 8 hours sleep according to these people. And no worry and plenty of exercise, because the body releases chemicals called endorphins, it says, which cause this euphoric feeling which we get when we exercise. So exercise or sexercise, I don't know. Anyway, there you go. Not much more to report in my week, as I'm kind of back to the work routine anyway, and it's all kind of busy, nose to the grindstone and what have you. How was your week? Yeah, not too bad. Just a few things. Just one thing in particular that came up. It's just something I came across, as you do on Facebook and all that, and it said here that in old Roman courts, instead of taking the oath on the sacred books, men used to swear holding their testicles. Hence the word testify. Originated from testicles. If proved false, the testes of liars were cut and fed to the dogs tied nearby. This punitive action could be very effective even today, especially for many politicians in power. Oh yes, I can see that. When we ask them to tell the truth and they don't do it, off with his testicles and feed them to the local dog. That's quite interesting. So it's a bit harsh, isn't it?
So when you testify, it's all got to do with your testicles.
Right, okay.
Brilliant. Okay, right, we're going to bring in our guest now. Now, as I say, our guest was on the show before. We hadn't had Walter on for a long time. And we actually also did a show at Walter down in the Headford Arms in Kells. We had a free seminar and we talked about the dangers of Wi-Fi and all the technology. And also Walter has been involved with removing fluoride from the water supply in Northern Ireland. He's in an action group up there, or was in the action group. So we're just going to find out and get an update from Walter what's been going on. Good evening, Walter. How are you doing?
Hey, how are you doing, Alan?
It's been a long time since you've been on the show, and what have you been up to? What have you been doing? Or do you want to? I'll tell you what you do before we get into it. Give people a bit more of a background. I only gave you a little bit of background. I know you do a hell of a lot of work. So if you give them a bit bigger of a bio from yourself, and then we'll get talking and get into things.
Well, I guess I started off with fluoride because they were going to introduce it into the waters in Northern Ireland. I didn't want it because I had small children at the time, and I didn't want somebody else drugging my children through the water supply. And so I started getting active going around through the councils in Northern Ireland on the same night as the health board did. At the end of the 3-month consultation period, I found that we had 25 out of 26 councils voted against it. And the government then said they were going to go ahead with it anyway, so I then formed the councils into a coalition of councils of Northern Ireland, cross-party, to try and sue the government, to try and stop them from doing this. In the end, we finally did get it stopped in Northern Ireland, but as these things happen, the government, they wait a few years, and then they start trying to reintroduce it again. I then started up again, went through a lot of the politicians again. They then backed down again. 4 years later, they started again, and I started again as well. I got it to the point where we were about to do a march, and then they backed down again. And it just keeps coming back all the time. It's like the Terminator, You think you've killed it, and then it gets back up again. And this has also been a pattern that I watched happen with the mobile phone masts. I also helped stop about 30 some odd mobile phone masts here in Northern Ireland and also in the Republic. I spoke on the subject. I went down and helped form citizens groups across Ireland. With the fluoride, we actually ended up having a march on Stormont a number of times until we got them to back off. In the Republic, I also went down and tried to I did start a campaign in the Republic as well, which then led to a Dáil inquiry and all kinds of things came out of it. So that's pretty much what I started off doing. It has led me on because once you find the government lying about something, you find they're lying about everything, and that's what happened to me. It was my big wake-up call. So I've started questioning everything, including my property taxes, which I haven't paid. So I'm questioning all kinds of things now, and I'm trying to find solutions that actually work. So that's really what I've been up to. But
and obviously you're involved in the mobile phone, wireless technology. You've been involved in that and educating people about that because you came down to my house, which is very kind of you, and you had the smog detector, and the video is actually on YouTube. People can see this, and Walter's actually going around and he's picking out, at the time when I had Wi-Fi on and I had a microwave and I had the deck phone, and Walter was with the help of the smog detector, he was able to pick out what was what. And since that kind of interview and since that time, I got rid of all of that stuff, and everything's hardwired. The Wi-Fi is switched off and the microwave went in the bin. So, and you have to kind of, it's all about reducing the harmful radiation around you, and that's what Steve did the same thing. Steve removed his microwave, switched off his Wi-Fi, hardwired everything, because it's all about safety and trying to get away from it. The problem is, as you know, Walter, when you have a neighbour that has a Wi-Fi box and you're picking it up in your house, I mean, what can you do about it?
Well, you can shield. I have people here in Northern Ireland I've helped who've called me about their situation, and they're in a row house, so there's like a house on either side touching wall to wall. And the houses on either side have had Wi-Fi, and they've had routers, they've had whatever, deck phones, they've had all kinds of stuff in their houses, and it's coming through the walls. So in those houses, we've then decorated the walls with aluminium foil and then re-wallpapered over the top of it. And that blocks the signals. We've been able to successfully block out signals in houses quite easily just using aluminium foil. Now, I'm sure there's other solutions because they have a paint that has titanium in it. You can paint it on the walls, and it'll block it as well. So you can, and they have screening. You can get the Israelis make it, the Chinese make it. It's a fabric. The Swiss are making it because all of the armies, the next war isn't going to be fought with guns and bullets and bombs. It'll be fought with microwaves. And they know that. And so they're now getting their troops into microwave clothing that can bounce off microwaves so that they can't be killed in the battlefield by a microwave. So that fabric is available to you to put up as curtaining. So you can buy it by the yard or by the meter, and you can put it up on the windows and block signals. You can even put it against the walls. And what I've done at home, and I don't have anywhere near what most people have, I have a canopy made out of this stuff that goes over the bed. Because the most important thing is your sleep. Yeah. And the most vulnerable spot you have is your bed, because you're going to lie there for, say, 8 hours or 9 hours, and you need to build up melatonin. And melatonin is interfered with by these microwave signals. So the less of it you have, the better off you're going to be for producing melatonin and getting to sleep and getting a good quality sleep. Yeah. So I have a canopy made out of the same material that the Israelis use and that the Swiss make around the bed. It's complete, down to the floor with weights in it. So we go into that every night. It sort of looks like Casablanca or something, It's attractive, but it's functional.
Well, if it does the job, I mean, at the end of the day, people, at the end of the day, we have to do what you have to do. I was looking on AliExpress, which is a kind of Eastern, well, I won't say Eastern European, more like Chinese website where you get cheapy stuff, and they do have a lot of these products, mesh covering and clothing, fairly cheap. So you don't have to go into your local DIY store because they tend to be more expensive, unfortunately. But if you don't have a lot of money, well, then that might be the solution for some people.
Yeah, well, I think put out as many websites as you can to help people because it is very expensive, this stuff. So I'd repeat that at the end of the program or even now, the site, so that everybody can get on and try and order this stuff. Because the other thing I've done, because they've now put Wi-Fi on airplanes. They didn't used to, but they've done it now on all airplanes. So, and the airports, of course, are Wi-Fi too. So what I've done is I have clothing that is microwave proof. And when I go to the airport, I go through their scanners. Well, I don't go through the full body scanner. I've never been through one. I won't be going through one. But I go through the other metal detector. They can frisk me, do whatever they want. And then as soon as I get out, I go into the bathroom, I change. Like Superman, I change into my radiation-proof clothing, and then I get on the flight. So I feel an awful lot better. I don't feel as woozy and things that happen on the flight. And I feel at least I've done the best I can. So I wear that through the whole flight. And then when I get off at the other end, before I go through their security, I go into the bathroom, I change back into normal clothes, I go out and get frisked, and then I go on my way. So I have those clothes for traveling. And I also carry with me a flask that takes out fluoride, which I found. It has a filter that they claim takes out fluoride. So it's a stainless steel filter, and I carry that with me. So that because on the airplane, a lot of the bottled waters that they're handing you, actually all of them, first of all, they're in a plastic bottle, which is leaching out chemicals, estrogen. And the other thing it has is that, it has fluoride in it. Every one of them I checked on the flight had fluoride in them. So I carry my own flask, and I put their water through my flask. And I only drink out of that, and so does my wife. So that's what we're doing to sort of protect ourselves on our flights. I just put that out there because there's a lot of people who wouldn't even be thinking about these kind of things.
Yeah, well, a lot of people have stopped flying or have found different ways to get around because of the whole TSA thing in America, especially in America, because of what was going on over there. And that's a concern. It's all part of Big Brother, the whole lot, and if you argue the point and it just makes matters worse, apparently. They're a law unto themselves, unfortunately. But yeah, I said on the show there, I think it was last week I said on the show that trying to find bottled water in Ireland that doesn't contain fluoride is very difficult. But I did find out that I rang up the company that bottles water for Aldi. And Aldi, they sell their own version of bottled water, their own brand called Comeridge. And the company that actually bottle the water, they said that it's actually fluoride free, and they said to Aldi, they had a fight with them, they should put fluoride free on the label. But Aldi said that they didn't want to have that statement on the label. But this company make their own bottled water called Celtic Pure, and they do have that. It does not contain fluoride on the water. So I've emailed Celtic Pure and I've asked them to send me a quality report stating the fact that there's no fluoride in the water, both in Aldi's and in theirs. So I have kind of a copy of it. Now, I haven't checked out any other bottled water company over here in Ireland, but because I normally buy the Comeridge water, and I know it's in a plastic container, and it comes in a plastic container, but you have to do what you can. And I don't have a filtering system, so the best thing I can do at the moment, until I get a filtering system, is to make sure that the water I'm getting has a pH balance over 7, which, according to Aldi, it's 7.6. I did a check on it with a litmus strip, and it came up 7.25, and obviously because it's non-fluoride, I went for that bottled water. Now the next thing I have to do is when the funds allow is to buy a Berkey filter, and obviously and have the fluoride filters in there. Mind you, would I need the fluoride filters? I might get them, I don't know, I'd have to see. But the Berkey filter, as you know, you probably heard of them, Walter, are very, very good. And if you get to 5 litre Berkey filter, you can actually put the bottled water into that and then filter it even more and then use it. Yeah,
that's what I would think of doing. I mean, I actually have it here now to be installed as a whole house filter system that takes fluoride out and takes out all the other contaminants as well. Because I know some father and son who installed it in their house, and they both had horrendous eczema of some kind, skin stuff, and it all went away as soon as they started bathing in this water. So we're getting it put into our house as well. And I also use a distillation unit for all our drinking and cooking water. I've been doing that for 20 years. Our children were raised on distilled water. They still distill it. They're now in Australia, and they still distill the water over there. So there's things you can do to protect yourself against this stuff.
Yeah, and where do you see everything going at the moment, Walter? Because they're trying to roll out 5G and all the technology that's out there. And we've been obviously talking to people over the years. We've been mentioning the technology and the dangers of it and what to watch out for and everything else. And having a number of people on the show, from professors to doctors, talking about the dangers of the technology. Mm-hmm. And there's still people will not accept the fact that, when you hear non-ionizing radiation, which is what they state is safe, and you think that's like saying, well, you can have 5 cigarettes and you're okay, but if you smoke 20, you'll get cancer. I mean, if it has the word radiation in it, it's bad for you, full stop. I don't think there is such a thing as a safe level of radiation.
No, I don't think so either. The only safe level is 0, because that's the background level that used to be here, and that's what we evolved with. We didn't evolve with all of this microwave smog. And to give you an example, I used to put this up in councils as a slide, and this was about, say 8 years ago I used to put this slide up, so it's gotten even worse since then. The key fob you have to open your car door?
Yeah.
Well, they've had to increase the strength of it over the last 10 years. Guess by how many times, just to get it to open the car door now?
Well, I don't know, 10 maybe?
42 times.
Wow.
Now, the reason is because there's so much electrosmog that wasn't here 10 years ago, and the thing can't get through to open your door. So they've had to strengthen the key fob just to get it to open the door. Now, when 5G comes on, you're going to have a repeater mast on every block. On the top of a telephone pole or a building. It's going to be every block. I saw that there's a city in England, it begins with an H, I don't know if it's Herefordshire or what it is, but anyway, they just got 5G. And they got 38,000 repeater masts all in that one city, just to cover it. Because the problem with 5G is it's penetrative, but it doesn't travel. It doesn't travel well, so they have to have these things really close together in order to make this all happen, and to create their smart grid, as they call it. So they're going to be putting these things in. Now, the trial city, or the trial place, they're trying it out right now in Ireland, in the Republic, is Dingle. Dingle is about to get 5G, because I've been invited down there. There's a talk going to be happening, I think it's next month. So no date's been given to me, so I can't tell you a date or anything about it. I just know that it's happening. Now, the problem with all of these issues, and I'm including fluoride, incinerators, nuclear energy, you name it. Every one of these issues has one main problem that happens, and it happened to me, and it's happened to me a number of times, and I've had to analyze what's happened. When I fought the fluoride, of course, we got it stopped. So, of course, we celebrate. Gee, we got it stopped. That's great. But, it keeps coming back. And the reason it keeps coming back is because the civil servants, the top civil servants, they just don't give up. Why should they? They're paid to do this. So they just wait. And then they come back after all your troops have gone away and all the furor has died down. They come back again and again, like the Terminator. And it goes on nonstop. My solution, and I want to put it out on air for people, because I'm starting to talk about it here with politicians and other people, as many people as I can talk to about it. My idea is that we get them to sign a version of like the Official Secrets Act, like the British put out. Once you sign that act, if you're a civil servant and you sign that, you promise to go away to prison for 25 years if you break silence, if you tell about anything that you've seen at work or any secret that the government didn't want you to expose. So that way they keep everybody's mouth shut. Well, my feeling is that we should get all the groups together, instead of them fighting separate issues, which is what's happening right now, You're going to have a group fighting 5G. Then you have another group fighting smart meters. Then you have another group fighting the water charges. Then you have another. It goes on like this. But we're all fighting the same group of civil servants. There's only a handful of these guys, and they're not brave people. Now, if we all focused our attention on them instead of our issues, and we demanded that we would get them to sign, say, an allegiance, or that they have their allegiance to the people, that they will not be answerable to large corporations, that they will not be answerable even to the fake crown or whoever it is that's ahead of all of this stuff. They're answerable to the people. They take our money. They take our salaries. They're in our buildings. We pay for the heat. Then they should be working for us. And they're not. If we can get them to sign something, we put it together, and we get it passed through the door. I'll try and get it passed here in the north through the assembly. We put them to the test. If they don't want to sign, that's fine. You're sacked. We'll get somebody else.
But surely we should be putting pressure on the politicians, because they're the people who are supposed to be representing the people, although they never do. But surely that's where the pressure should be put on.
Yes, but you see, here's the problem for the politicians, and I'll tell you what it is, because I went up to storm it, and this is fairly recent. This was over my Land and Property Service stuff. So I went up to storm it about it. I get to a guy who's on the Justice Committee, and I said to him, look, I need documents out of Land and Property Service. Can you get them for me? And he says to me, I have to put in a Freedom of Information request. I said, wait a minute, that's what we have to do. He says, well, I can't get the documents any other way. I said, wait, I'm missing something here. I said, why isn't this conversation taking place? Fenwick, get your ass in here in the morning with those papers or you're fired. I said, why isn't that conversation taking place? He says, well, I can't talk to them like that because we don't have any law that allows us to do that. And I said, am I missing something? Aren't you the lawmakers? Make a law. Write a law that says they have to give you whatever you ask for, and if they don't, they're sacked. I said, why isn't that happening? He said, geez, nobody's ever asked about this before. Nobody's ever brought this up. I'm telling you, the civil servants can be brought into line. And yes, we do have to put pressure on politicians. But I tell you, if all the groups got together, you know how many people were in the anti-water movement? How many people were in the fluoride marches? I mean, if we started putting them all together, you'll have maybe 100,000 people, all focused on, like 10 civil servants, maybe only 5 of them? If we ask for it, you'll get it. But we're not asking. Instead, we're fractured, and we're off fighting individual battles. And then even when we're successful, they come back 3 years later. You're going to find your water charges coming back. They'll keep coming back because you haven't gotten to the root cause of the problem, which is the civil servants who may have taken a bribe. I don't know. They've certainly been influenced to not do what the people want. We just had down here people fighting an incinerator, right? And they get all the politicians on board. They're getting everything. They had, 10,000 signatures. They went ahead. Wait, what happened here? The people didn't want it, and now they've got it. The same thing's happening with fracking. We don't want fracking, and yet they're telling us we're going to get it. Why is this happening? It's happening because of these civil servants. And they're the same civil servants who stay there year after year for the next 40 years. So they need to be signing a document. And if they don't sign the document, we sack them. And then we audit them to find out where they're getting the money from. I tell you, it'll change everything. I went up to Stormont. This is another thing that happened, but this was a number of years ago. I went up to Stormont, and the top civil servants were all brought into a room with me, right? I'm an artist, so I had to draw them. They're all brought into a room with me, and the first guy sits down. He tells me what he does. And I said, look, I reached over, we were on our own, and I said, look, I know you guys are taking bribes. I said, I know it couldn't be brown paper bags you've been caught by now. Have you got any idea how this is happening? He looks around to make sure none of the other civil servants are nearby, and he says, a guy retired last year, and he became on the board of directors of a bank, and he's getting like $1 million a year now as a salary. He says, they take care of you after you retire, so that there's no paper trail. There's no money to go and catch them for. So that's how they're doing these things. I don't know if that's accurate, but that's what I was told. And, it's the way the government's going, they're not paying attention to anything we say. Nothing. You ask anybody out there, does the government represent you? Absolutely not. I don't know anybody who says it does. But I know if we get them, we get all the groups into one group. Stop focusing on your issue. Put your energy into changing the core problem, which is those civil servants. There's not many of them, I'm telling you. There's one in planning who's allowing all the mobile phone masts to go up. He's allowing the incinerators. There's one in health. We start nailing them to the cross. I think you'll see a change for absolutely everybody. That's where I think the pressure needs to be applied. But yes, you do need to apply a pressure to your politicians. But if they saw a group of 100,000 coming towards them, I think you'd see them jumping on board instantly. But that's where I think it needs to go to. I think we need them to sign an allegiance, because now in Northern Ireland, remember, I got the fluoride stopped, right, back in '98. By '99, we had it stopped. They came back again, I don't know, 2 years later, 3 years later, and we got it stopped again. Then they came back 4 years after that, and we got it stopped again. Then they came and they brought in a stuff called phosphoric acid, right, which they didn't need to ask our permission for. It's the same civil servant, right? Now they bring in phosphoric acid. I start asking parliamentary questions on phosphoric acid. So I ask, does the phosphoric acid contain fluoride? Yes, it does. So we now just got fluoridated through a back door, and they didn't need our permission, so they didn't have to go through the councils. So it avoided a whole fight with the councils who were anti-fluoride. We just got it. So now we've got fluoride in our drinking water here, and our cancer rates are just going to go up through the roof because of this. But, this is the problem, because these guys don't ever quit. Why should they? They're paid to sit there around the clock pushing whatever they've been told to push. And so the only way we're ever going to get ahead on any of these subjects and permanently stop them is to stop the top civil servants. I think they should be a member of the public who gets that job, and they rotate. I think they should be up for election. I don't believe that these guys should work their way through the ranks, and be the little toady in the worm who makes it, and then he gets the job. When they started up your water company down south in each of the districts, who got the big job? Who became the head of the water service in each district in the Republic? It was a top civil servant. Why? What's he know about water? Why is he suddenly running this large corporation? Could it be they're paying him back? I have no idea, but I don't like the smell of all of this. I know that the top civil servants are the problem. I've seen it too many times, and I've run across them with the LPS thing. I've run across it on the masts. I've run across it on the fluoride. Now, everybody's running across the same guy, whoever it is, or woman. We need to sort them out. If we don't, you're going to eventually lose each of these issues. And even if you temporarily win, they'll come back again with another version of it. Because you haven't solved the main problem, which is the civil servants who are driving this. They're the gatekeeper for industry. If we can do away with the gatekeeper, industry's powerless to do anything.
Well, they're the people that are behind the politicians. So when the politicians are moving departments, they just rely on the civil service all the time, and they tend to be there for years and years. A part of the furniture. And,
yes.
And really, as you say, we have to get to them as well. Because over down the south of Ireland, obviously we had the big protest about the water charge, and everything was stopped. And all of a sudden, they seem to be starting up again. And we heard that in some places, they're still fitting meters.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They don't give up.
They don't, what part of we don't want them do you not understand? This is the whole idea of the march.
They don't understand because they haven't been forced to sign an allegiance to the people form, like the Official Secrets Act, that guarantees that should they breach this, and should they sell out to some industry, or take a bribe, or in any way do something that the public don't want, they agree to go to prison for 20 years. You want to see how many of them will, they'll all run like cockroaches. It's what you have to do. If you have a problem with crows in your yard, you know how to solve it? You kill a crow and you hang it from the clothesline. You won't get another crow in your yard. Now, unfortunately, that's what you're going to have to slaughter a couple of civil servants here with this kind of act, where you ask them to sign a document. If they're not willing to sign, then they're certainly not loyal to us.
Well, can I just add in there, we're not advocating violence in any way. We're talking about it as regarding paperwork.
Say again?
We're not advocating violence in any way towards civil servants.
But they did do that
We don't need to. This is a bloodless war. All we need to do is get them to do what they should be doing, which is working for us. If they're not willing to sign a document saying they agreed to work for us, then what use are they? Then they obviously are up for bribing or anything else. We have to tackle the civil servants, and if we don't get all these groups together, then we're divided, fighting our own individual causes, and then we fail or we succeed temporarily. But the civil servant is still sitting there, who has instigated all of this problem. He's the gatekeeper for industry. He's the gatekeeper for whoever's above him who's telling him to do this. Now, to take that power away, we need to get him to be loyal to us. If he's not willing to be loyal to us, then we get another guy who is. And I do believe that the top civil servant job should be an independent job, independent of the government completely. It should be a citizen who gets elected in some form or another. And every 5 years he changes. So that they can't be bribing them all the time, you know. Whatever is happening, and I don't know what it is not healthy for the population, because we're all fighting the same group of people. There's only a handful of these guys in there.
Yeah.
And they're causing everybody's issue to fall apart. And we're spending, can't tell you how much money I've spent fighting the fluoride campaign and the mobile phone campaign. Most of our income's going on it. Now, how many of these fights can I do? And then why should I have to do this? If they were doing what we wanted them to do, we wouldn't have windmills, and we wouldn't have incinerators, and we wouldn't have fracking right now. You know, this is crazy. So my call is to everybody out there, if you're in a group, to start organizing with other groups and take a look at the civil servant situation. We should have a meeting somewhere in the center of Ireland, or maybe in Dublin, and do a rally where we actually start taking action, where we can do a referendum, or we can do a petition, or anything we want to do, and we demand that these guys are made out of either they sign the document or they quit.
Well, we need to pick the topic, because the problem is with fluoride in the water. You see it on a regular basis. People are still drinking it. They'll fill up the kettle and they boil the kettle and they'll have a cup of tea and they'll be doing their moaning and what have you, and they're still drinking it. So they're not awake to the dangers of fluoride. That's the problem. I think we're going to have to pick a topic that they're all aware of, and it'll affect everybody. Now, we know fluoride affects everybody, and we know the mobile phone affects everybody, but some people just won't get it. So something like the water charges did affect so many people, but we went on the march, and everybody was there, 100-odd thousand, whatever. And again, they're still carrying on. So, you know, that's why I don't know whether marching works.
It doesn't work. I've done them. I've organized them. I've organized them in Sligo. I've organized them in Dublin. I've organized them in Belfast. They don't work. The problem is the civil servants. That's the continuation, or the constant here, is the civil servant. It's not about doing marches. It's not about making a petition. None of these things work, because the civil servant is already there in place, determined to push ahead with the agenda, whatever that agenda is. And so we can't get past that until we tackle the civil servant. That's why we need to get something, we need a consensus right now where we get all the groups together for all the different issues, and we agree to act as one on this one attack, which is to get the civil servants to come into our society and be part of us, the people.
Well, I think we need to expose them and find out who they are.
Oh, absolutely we do. We need to name and shame.
Yeah.
We already know the names of the civil servants, the top guys.
Yeah.
But we need to be showing that they have consistently approved mobile phone masts against the will of the population, that they have consistently allowed fracking, given permission for fracking in places that we didn't want it. There was the pipeline down in the West Coast. They were proving that. They approve everything we don't want. And yet we're the ones who are sitting here taking the risks with our children and our health. And these guys, they get to leave and get a pension and go off to the Bahamas. It shouldn't be happening. We have to tackle them. I'm telling you, that's my opinion from my own experience, and I have fought a lot of campaigns. I've been doing this for 20 years now.
Yeah, I know. You've been doing it well. Steve, you want to come in there?
Yeah. You have been doing it, and we all know you've been fighting the good fight, Walter. But what about, I mean, let's say for argument's sake, you have Minister X who's sitting up there, he's in government, and you have all the protests. We'll use 5G as an example. But let's say we have all these protests going on about 5G, and this minister sitting up there, and I mean, obviously, before he puts his signature to anything, he's going to want to know, is it safe and all this. I mean, but the fact that they're flesh and blood men and women like us, so we have to assume that they do have at least one shred of decency. But the information that we all have on this side of the camp, are they getting to see that, or are they just getting, stuff for same old rhetoric from Europe? They get a document that says, yeah, it's 100% safe, it's been rigorously tested, and there's nothing to worry about. I mean, can we say like that? And when they put a name to roll out the 5G, all backhanders aside, but do we think that they are in full knowledge that it is dangerous, or would it be fair to say that they actually haven't a clue because they're relying on someone else to do the research and the legwork for them?
They're relying on civil servants. The top civil servants I'm telling you about, they're the ones who they talk to, and they don't allow your information in. When we went around, this just to show you as an example, when I went around to the councils, I sent in a package for every councillor into the council. Yeah. Right? So every councillor should have gotten my package of information. Every time I arrived at the council, they didn't get it, because the civil servants within the council dumped them in the bin, and so they weren't even given the information. When I arrived up at Stormont to give a talk to the Environmental Health Committee up there, I had sent a package for each one of the ones who I was going to speak to. When I get there, they hadn't gotten their package either, because it had been dumped by the civil servant. So now we have a situation where the politicians don't have the time to research every subject, and to be fair, they don't research any of them anyway. They do it. They get a civil servant to do it, and the civil servant then gives them the biased information, and they think what they're doing is probably fine. They probably think fluoride's good for teeth. They don't realize that it causes cancer rates to go up and infant mortality rates to go up. So there's a huge thing that's happening here, but it's the civil servants who are blocking. They're the gatekeepers. I'm telling you, that's where you need to focus your attention on, instead of the individual issue that you're fighting, which might be fluoride, it might be mobile phones, it might be fracking. You've got to put your time in on the civil servant, because honestly, we'll all be here in 10 years' time, no better off. By then we'll have 5G, and we'll be filling hospital beds with cancer patients. Because 5G is a seriously dangerous stuff, and they know it. In fact, California, just to give you an update, the governor of California has banned 5G. Now,
that's a step in the right direction.
Of course, but yet, why is it coming ahead here in Dingle? If it's not safe for Californians, why are we getting it? So, but we're going to have to now fight an individual battle just on 5G. This shouldn't be happening. What we should be doing is focusing all our attention on the civil servants. Yeah, and it's the only way forward, I'm telling you. Otherwise, we're all going to be in the same spot 5-10 years from now with this stuff in every doorstep.
Yeah, and chances are we probably will. I mean, if the information is not getting through to the people who need to know, then chances are we're going to be banging ahead off a brick wall. Walter, Tony says he's heard 5G is like walking through those body scanners in the airports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. He said it's a very narrow beam. So, geez, I mean, we all know, we've all heard about those body scanners that, even going through those once or twice, it's a risk. And if this 5G is gone, if you're living obviously near 5G and you're going to be in the path of it, then it's going to be, wow, we'll be lucky to see the next 10 years to protest, because we probably won't be here. As you say, we'd probably either be in hospital beds or 6 feet under.
Well, that's where I think this is the problem. We're not putting our attention in on the civil servants. The other thing with the 5G, I'll tell you, because we had a a telephone guy come out here to repair our telephone, right? And I was talking to him about all of this, and he said, well, I'm now doing courses because I'm going to be putting up little repeater masts every half mile or every quarter of a mile all over Northern Ireland, right, for 5G. So they're coming everywhere. I'm not just in the city where I'm assuming Dublin will get something like 40 or 50,000 of these little repeater masts. So the amount of radiation you're going to get in Dublin now is minuscule compared to what it's going to be next year or the year they start the 5G. It'll be like 1 million times higher. And they're going to be putting it out in the country as well. So even if you're living out in the country and you think, oh, I live so remotely, no, they're moving they will be within a half mile of each other. They will be putting up a repeater mast on, and they're even saying, they've even put in the paper that they are going to vest land. So if a farmer says, no, I don't want it, it's tough. They're going to take the land off and put it there anyway, because this is for the better good, supposedly. So 5G, if we don't stop these civil servants, you're going to be getting 5G. If we don't stop these civil servants, you're going to get incinerators. If we don't stop these civil servants, you're going to get fracking. That's the picture. I'm just trying to bring it to people. And I have another story that I was just going to pass to you as well that's happened here, because I've been trying to help a family up in the north who started questioning Wi-Fi in the school, right?
Yeah.
And they went to the principal. They're on the PTA. They went to the principal and they said, look, we're concerned about the Wi-Fi. We'd like you to turn it off unless you have some proof that it's safe. And she says, no, I won't turn it off. I said, well, look, I tell you what, we'll pay for hardwiring the whole school out of our own pocket. And she said no. So she refused. They then started sending her the science. They started giving her books on it. All kinds of stuff. She's still refusing. But then they started researching the actual law, the laws behind health and safety in schools and so on. And they found that, believe it or not, they're required by law to do risk assessments on any new technology that comes into the school. So they then started asking for the risk assessments. The first thing the principal did was say, you've got to go see the C2K crowd. They're the ones who are putting this in. They have the risk assessment. So in order to cut through that crap, I've been writing their letters for them or helping them write their letters. I wrote a letter in saying, does the risk assessment exist, yes or no? And the principal had to write back, no. So now we know she didn't have any risk assessments, but they're required by law. So then we started asking about all the other laws, right? And then we started asking the education authority if they have the risk assessments done. No, none of them have done risk assessments. And do you know why they haven't done the risk assessments?
No.
Because they can't get insurance. The insurance is now canceled to the schools because every insurance company now has a rider in it that says, should some child or a teacher get hurt from Wi-Fi or from wireless communication or microwave radiation, you're not covered. We're not covering you. So they can't get insurance now for the schools. And because they can't get the insurance for the schools, guess what they're doing now? I was just told this just the other day. They're self-insuring. What do you mean self-insuring? So then we started writing in, asking for all the documents that prove that they're self-insured. Because you must have limits. If a kid breaks his arm, they're only going to pay out $4,000. If he dies on the school, he maybe get $100,000. Well, there has to be limits.
Yeah.
So we asked for all of their parameters and limits and all of the things in writing that they had about that they're self-insuring. The education authority had to write back. The principal wrote back. They have none. They've just made this up. But they're using our money. They're actually going to pay out our money without asking us. Hold on a minute. You can't self-insure. Then I'll self-insure my car. And I'll self-insure my house. And why should I have insurance? I can self-insure. This is nutty. So these civil servants, they don't have any insurance. The schools can't get insurance now. They actually can't take out insurance because the insurance won't cover this technology because it's too risky. Now, if the insurance companies won't cover it, sure as hell, it's going to hurt kids. And if they can't do a risk assessment, which all the schools here in Northern Ireland, we can't find any that have done a risk assessment, and yet they're required by their own statutes to do them. Now we're looking into other laws that on health and safety that are in place that say that if they don't do this, then they're going to have to pay a fine and or jail. That's what we're looking at right now, because these health and safety laws, like you can't put asbestos in the school.
Yeah.
They won't let you, right? You go to prison if you put asbestos in the school. And they also have to have a risk assessment for asbestos now in every school. But when you put in a technology like 5G or Wi-Fi, you don't have to have any risk. You don't have to. Why? What are you talking about? Of course they have to have a risk assessment. So now the education authorities have written back to us and they've said, look, we don't need a risk assessment because there's enough studies out there that say it's harmless. What are you talking about? A risk assessment is a risk assessment. You either do it or you don't have one, in which case you're breaking the law. So that's where we're at, and we're now starting to push that ahead. And we now have a teachers union who's now come on board. The largest teachers union in Europe has now joined us in this fight because they realize how dangerous this is. And they've started writing up articles about how dangerous Wi-Fi is and how the other problem that they now have found is with the computers in schools. Did you know that there's absolutely not one shred of evidence that it does anything good for education at all? There's no evidence. Amazing. There was an article in the London Educational Supplement about 2 years ago that said we have to get these out of school now because they're doing damage. They have no benefits for education at all. And when they've done testing of children who've used the computers consistently and then children who haven't, the kids who haven't far outstrip the ones who have on the same subjects. So the kids are getting stupider through the computer, not smarter.
Well, we know about this, about the dumbing down of the IQ of students using a number of technologies and chemicals and everything else. So it doesn't surprise us there. Walter, we have about 20 minutes left or so, and we have questions from our listeners. So we want to quick fire them over to you there, if you can give us a quick answer on them, if you can. I know some can be long-winded, but if you can give us a quick answer on them, that'd be fantastic. Steve.
Yeah, Walter, this question came in. Well, it was more of a comment. Came in on PIR, and I just want you to address it. So, I mean, people can know exactly where you're coming from. But the poster says, "I live in Northern Ireland. This man did not get fluoride stopped. He's talking rubbish. Don't know what his trip is." What would you say to that person, Walter?
Well, I got elected, and I have the papers to prove it, by all the councils in Northern Ireland to represent them. I'm the PR spokesman for all the councils in Northern Ireland. I have the documents, but I don't argue about stuff like this. I also organized the marches, and unless those people were on the marches, whoever wrote that, and they must be remaining anonymous, I don't remember them being there until I'm introduced to them. I did do those marches, and for most of the fight, the end of the fight, I was on my own for the most part, because a lot of people thought that they got it stopped once they got it stopped in Northern Ireland. I then took the fight down to the Republic of Ireland, and I started with the first thing I did was put it into a magazine down there, which was called McGill Magazine, which was exposing government corruption, and they did an article called Arsenic and Old Waste. And I also went to see John Gormley and a couple of other TDs, including the Sinn Féin one, trying to get a cross-party agreement on this. So I must have missed them being there.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's fair enough. That's fair comment on that. Well done. Steve, we have a good few questions here, so we're going to have to quick fire them over. Yeah, we do. Just in relation, Walter, to these safety tests that the schools are supposed to be doing in relation to the likes of Wi-Fi. I know you said it's Northern Ireland. Would it be the same in Southern Ireland as well, do you know?
Yes, because risk assessments are required, and also your insurance will be the same. The insurance companies, the underwriters like Lloyd's and Swiss Re, they have now got clauses in all of their contracts to say that you're not covered for any kind of microwave damage to children, teachers, staff, anybody. So they're not covering in public buildings or anything. And here's the other issue. In the school, the principal takes the full liability because it was the principal who invited them in. She accepted it. So it took the liability off the companies and off the government. It's the principal who's sitting there holding the liability. They just don't know that.
Yeah.
They've never asked.
What about in a school, Walter? There's a school where we are here, and we went to the previous principal and gave her the information, and she just basically came back and said no. She's been on to the Department of Health and the Department of the Environment, and they said it's completely safe. We argued at hospital, but she said we were wasting time, that she wasn't going to switch it off. She has since retired, and a new principal has taken over. We gave the new principal the same information, and she gave us back the same information, saying that as far as she's concerned, it's safe. She's seen all the information from government. So basically what we would probably need to do, and other people around the country in similar situations, would be to obviously send off letters and ask to see if a risk assessment was done. I know you've already done it, Walter. I mean, maybe at some stage, if you can, if you maybe even have a template that you could fire us over, just to kind of start us in the right direction, because I think that could be something that every parent who's listening tonight who is concerned about Wi-Fi in schools, and I know I'm one of those, maybe if everyone kind of got together, had a little template, or even used their own words and sent it into schools and asked to see this risk assessment, it could be a step in the right direction.
Oh, definitely. And the other thing is, remember, ask about the insurance at the school. Ask to see their liability insurance that covers the children, your child, for damage from this. And so they'll have to admit, because they had to in our school, they haven't got a risk assessment, and they haven't got the insurance to cover them. So there's no insurance coverage for this. There's no risk assessment.
Yeah.
This is fraud, what they're doing, because normally people don't ask. And the other thing we should be doing is focusing on a principal. One principal of one school, and we should sue them. And you want to see how fast they'll take it out of every school.
Yeah. No, that's it. And there are schools that are removing Wi-Fi. We know one in Dublin that doesn't have Wi-Fi in it. And they want to remain anonymous, but we heard about them having they took it out for this reason. Okay, quick fire questions. Let's go.
Yeah, okay. This is a comment from Duncan on PIR. Thanks, Duncan. Duncan says he read before Christmas that a town in the USA that has already gone full smart grid has had a vast increase of 250,000 cases of cancer in just 1 year since the smart grid went fully live. Yeah, I mean, I think, and we've heard those stories before. I mean, that's nothing new in relation to the smart grid. Every time that they are kind of gone live, that there has been an increase in cancers. I mean, we seen when we were with you before in one of the talks, Walter, you actually had maps in relation to cancer maps, and I think this was purely based on the fluoride levels, and the maps for the Southern Ireland. I think it was a purplish colour, kind of depicting the levels of cancers in Southern Ireland, and the same levels were not found in Northern Ireland, and that was just kind of based on the drinking water.
No, it wasn't based on drinking water. No, what it was these were all Ireland cancer maps done by your government. They look at 18 different cancers, and then they look at where they were and they map them out on a map. So they put pins in a map, and they actually map out the kind of cancer they found. So, for example, pancreatic cancer. They would pinpoint it on the map. Now, for a lot of cancer, it would be in purple. For a very little cancer, it would be in green. So now those maps for pancreatic cancer, for a start, prostate cancer was another one. The amount of green was only in Northern Ireland. The whole of the Republic, coming right up to the imaginary borderline, was purple. And on the prostate cancer, it did exactly the same. So you had 3 or 4 of these maps where for each cancer, leukemia was another one. The cancers were all in the Republic of Ireland, and much higher rates. Your country actually beats Northern Ireland in every cancer. In some cases by 40%, in other cases double. And, it's incredible. So you're dying faster, you're dying younger. You have, I think, one of the lowest life expectancies in Europe, in the Republic of Ireland. Now, why does it come up to the imaginary borderline and then stop? Because that's where the drinking water pipes stop. Our drinking water pipes were broken off from yours back in the Troubles. So back in the 60s, we broke them off. We don't get the same water as you're getting. Yours is chemicalized with fluoride. That's one of the common denominators. Now, I don't say it's the only thing that's caused all the cancers. I can't. But certainly, if you took away the fluoride, what if there was a shift? Shouldn't you turn this stuff off till you find out if it's causing it? There's enough studies out there. There's something like 4,000 studies showing that fluoride causes harm. How many do you need? It should be stopped. It should have been stopped years ago. And the problem we're now facing is that they're entrenched. And again, the civil servants don't want to admit that it causes cancer. And if they took it out and suddenly the cancer rate dropped, we'd all start suing them. So they know not to do this. That's the problem. That's why we have to get at those civil servants.
Okay, let's crack on. Let's get these questions up.
Yeah, just in relation to water, Tony on the chat room says, Don Solomon said, if you place distilled water in the hot sun, that after some time the magnesium and other trace elements return to it. He says he can't validate that because he's not able to run the tests himself. But anyone who does maybe distill their own water or go through a reverse osmosis filter, that's one thing we've heard before, Walter, that sometimes when you go through the filter you're kind of left with dead water, that some important elements are removed from it as well. Is that something that you've heard of, that putting it in the sun can return it to healthy water?
Yeah, I have heard that. And the other thing that I'd say about the distilled water is, for one thing, the rainwater is distilled water. So nature distills the water. There's no minerals in rainwater. Zero. And, a large portion of the world's population, at least something nearing a third, or maybe it's a fifth or so, or a quarter, live on rainwater alone. And I haven't heard about them having any mineral deficiencies. So, you get your minerals from your food because they're fat soluble. Whereas when you get the minerals from, you don't know what's in your drinking water, Yeah. You haven't had it tested, so you think you're getting all these minerals. Maybe there's none in there. Maybe there's a ton of arsenic in there. Maybe there's a ton of lead in there. You don't even know. So until you had your water tested, you don't know what you're drinking. With the distilled water, you're getting pure water every time. Now, and there's things you can do to the distilled water to remineralize it. Like you can put in a couple of grains of salt. You can squeeze lemon juice. This is what we do, and that realkalines it. So you can, and plus I flocculate it, or I lift it up and down and drop it into the bowl from a height about 12 times before I put it into glass bottles and then store it. So there's a lot you can do to the water, and then I can keep it on the windowsill where the sun hits it. So you can do a lot. Distilled water is, far better for you, I think, than the tap water will ever be, because the tap water is totally chemicalized.
Yeah.
Okay, let's crack on. Sorry, we have a few questions. We want to get through them there, Walter.
Okay, Tony was on again. He says there's a wonderful documentary called Resonance Beings of Frequency. He said it's all about how the Wi-Fi is affecting people. And so look, I mean, if anyone goes onto any of the search engines or the video search engines, and just type in effects of Wi-Fi, negative effects or anything, you will find hundreds of documentaries, and I think even there's one there as well. I can't remember the name of, but it was done several years ago in relation to the mobile phone tower masts, and it was actually done by was it BBC Panorama? I think it was a Panorama documentary, which is out there as well. So this information, it's not mumbo jumbo. It's definitely it's 100% valid information, because obviously if the BBC say it is, then it is. Okay, that's just a kind of plugging that, I suppose. Duncan says, and when we were talking about the civil servants earlier, he said the same problem in any local council. Workers come and go, but the core civil servants are at the bottom of all problems. I queried this many years ago, but was met with a stone wall when I started to push for answers. That's just kind of agreeing with something that you said earlier as well, Walter. But I mean, in relation to the civil servants, how can we make changes? I mean, how can we get, as you kind of said, get people, normal everyday people, up into those positions, because it seems like it's a closed shop, and I think most civil servants, it was always classed as, well, it was here, as a job for life. You could never be sacked.
I know. Well, that has to be changed. We had a law here in Northern Ireland where the DOE could dump toxic stuff into the reservoirs, right? And if they dumped in the toxic stuff into the reservoir and killed off all the fish, which they actually did do. They killed off 18 miles of the river band. Even water mites died. They put in a stuff called Magnafloc LT31, and they dumped it in large quantities. All they had to do when they were caught was write an apology letter. A farmer dumped in a fraction of that into a river near his house, to get rid of some toxic stuff. They took his farm off him. They fined him so much that he lost his farm. Now, farmers are having to pay fines when they do these things, but the government had what they call crown immunity for the DOE for a lot of years, up until, I don't know, about 8 years ago or something. They had crown immunity here, where they couldn't be prosecuted for anything they dumped or did to the environment. That had to be taken off them. Stormont took it off them. So the politicians, if they chose to, can write laws to make civil servants come into line. That's what they should be doing. Make a law that forces the civil servants to sign a document and come into line for the people.
Yeah.
And if they step out, then you're either sacked or you go to prison.
Well, I think we need to expose them. Definitely expose them. Right, we've got more questions coming in there, Steve.
Yeah, we've got two. Probably bring us up to the end. Howie says, question for Walter re minerals in water. What is acid rain? Rain containing sulfuric acid and variants, if I remember correctly, he says.
Well, the CFCs that are raining down on us are part of the acid rain, and that's actually got fluoride in it. That's another reason I distill all our water here. The stuff that's in your reservoirs is not the healthiest water. And they don't even check. Just to give you an example, I started asking questions about the aluminium levels here in Northern Ireland. And I found that in Canada, if they had more than, I think it was 125 micrograms of aluminium, they would close the whole system down and flush it out, right?
Yeah.
I got our readings for our area, and it was 3,000 micrograms. They were worried about 125 micrograms in Canada causing Alzheimer's, and we were getting routinely 3,000 here in our area, So the problem is that these civil servants they're behind all of this too, This stuff is just going on and on and on. But there isn't the mineral story, as far as water is concerned. They're putting in a lot of this stuff, and the problem they have is what they were doing in Northern Ireland was they were taking the aluminium hydroxide at the end of the process, when they use it to flocculate the water, and they were dumping it back into the reservoir. So the aluminium levels were rising in the water. Now they would take the water back out of that reservoir, and they didn't check to see how much aluminium was in it. They just added more aluminium to it. So the amount of Alzheimer's, the rate of Alzheimer's is increasing all the time. And it was about 5, maybe 10 years ago, I'm not sure how long, they did a sweep of who had the youngest Alzheimer's victim in Europe. And guess who had it? Northern Ireland.
Really?
Yep. We had a woman here who was, I think, 35 or 30, and she was now in a home, and she couldn't remember her own children's names. I think it's to do with the aluminium, because the aluminium is linked to Alzheimer's on a load of studies.
Yeah.
And in fact, if you call up the Alzheimer's Association, they'll tell you to get rid of your aluminium cooking pots.
Well, it's the same with tinfoil, isn't it? Using aluminum or aluminium with tinfoil, they're saying that's not really good either, wrapping your food in tinfoil.
No, you shouldn't be doing it. I don't do it. I don't take anything from the supermarket or anywhere that has aluminium touching it.
Yeah. It's frightening that there's so much out there that are dangerous for us, and what do you do? A lot of the time you don't have the funds to buy replacements, like we talked about protection and stuff like that. Can we talk? We have a few minutes left, Walter. Let's leave on the positive spin, right? Because it's always good to offer solutions to people as well. Sure. What are the solutions? What are the things that you would be positive about and saying are happening, so people can be aware of?
Well, I think I guess you have to talk about the negative, because that's where the solutions come out of.
Yeah.
If you don't say there's a problem, then people don't know how to avoid it in the first place. Like for the microwaving, you can turn off your Wi-Fi when you're not using it. And you'll cut down your exposure enormously. Get rid of the walk around the house cordless phones because they're on 24/7. The base is on all the time, never turns off. So if you replace them with corded phones, you'll have drastically reduced your exposure. So there's a lot you can do. You see, if you know there's a problem, then you can come up with solutions. You can get screening. You can also get aluminum fly mesh, or you can get stainless steel fly mesh, which you can put over your windows, or you can cover your, anything you want with this stuff, and it blocks out microwaves. So, as we're starting to go into this 5G thing, because they're pushing it like crazy, the trial is starting in a month's time or 2 months' time in Dingle, and they're going to roll it out to the whole country, and it'll happen overnight. So you better get started on solutions. And that's one of the solutions I would start looking at is screening, and cutting down on your exposure in your own home, because you spend so much of your time in your own house.
Yeah.
And certainly for sleep, I would be sectioning off the sleep area. For the water, I would be distilling. I've been doing it for years. It's to say my kids have only had distilled water their whole lives. And they were the healthiest ones at school. They never got ill. When the other kids came down with something, our kids were still sitting there. There was at one point that they were the only 2 kids sitting in the classroom. Everybody went out sick for 2 weeks, and our kids were just sitting there, and they had to be put into another class. Distilled water is far better than the chemicalized stuff that you're getting from the tap. That's an easy thing you can do.
Yeah.
You can get a reverse osmosis, but they're not as effective as the distillation, and they're much more expensive.
Well, the Berkey filters are €200 odd, and if you can afford it, then the Berkey filters would be good, because you can put fluoride filters in if you want, but if your water does not contain fluoride, then don't go to the added expense. But you can clear that down, and we heard about vortexing, making your water live again using certain vortexing equipment, things you can add on to your tap and water to make the water alive again. But we'll just say to our listeners that Walter has been on the show before, and we've gone through a lot of this stuff as well on previous interviews and other things, gone into detail. So if you are interested in finding out more about Walter's background and the stuff we've talked about, listen to previous interviews as well. That's very important, because we do talk about it. We still have kind of the same issues, and we're still trying to highlight them. Is there anything else? The one thing that we talked about before, Walter, the smoke detector that you had. I've been ringing the company in London on numerous occasions, and they keep promising to put it back into manufacturing and to produce it, but they haven't done anything about it yet. Have you come across any other company that produces the same smoke detector that you have?
No, I haven't. Now I'll look into it for you, and I'll come back to you, because I've heard of another detector that's out there that maybe could do the same job. So let me look into it, and I'll come back to you. The other thing I'd say, and this is just a way of, you're saying, how do we get the government's attention? How do we stop these things? There's an easy way to stop a lot of this and to get their attention. Don't open your mail. They write to you in the all-caps name for a start, and they write to you everything they're writing to you. All of their threats are coming through the mail. 100% of everything from the government is coming through the mail. If you put on it return to sender and send it back, the whole government will come to a total stop. They rely on you being afraid. They rely on you opening those letters and sending them money, because they're scaring you to death. All of their fines and taxes and everything are coming through the mail. If we all return it, believe me, you're going to get their attention. If you did 100,000 people returning all the mail that came in from the government, putting it return to sender, it'd be over. It's a bloodless revolution. Just return their mail to them.
And we didn't even get into that. I definitely think we're going to have to do a part 2, because we have all that side to get into as well. We haven't even talked about the legal side of things.
No, and I've got a lot to say about that too, I can tell you, because I've been going into that in detail. They're committing fraud. I went through the fake court system here, which was a shock to me. And I went into over Land and Property Service. They sent me a court document saying that I had to appear in court on a certain day, like 3 weeks away or something, right? So I call up the court and I say, look, this date doesn't suit me. Could you change this? They said, we didn't write to you. I said, what are you talking about? I'm sitting here with a court summons. It says court processing document. It has your name on it, and your address, and your phone number. It's got a date. How can this not be from you? She said, I'll check our records. She came back after 5 minutes. She says, it's not from us. We don't even have you on our system. I said, who sent this? She said, it must be Land and Property Service. I said, well, wait a minute. Land and Property Service is a private corporation owned by an American company. How can they possibly be handing out court summonses? She says, I don't know. I don't think it's legal, but you'll have to check with them. Now, can you believe this? When I get to the court, I'm actually not in the court. They've rented a room in the courthouse. Land and Property Service rented a room in the courthouse, and then they rented a judge for the day. And he represented them. So now, the judge finds you guilty. And he says you're guilty. So I wrote to him, and I said, what am I guilty of? All I did was ask for an invoice. I shouldn't have been in court in the first place. What was I guilty of? What law did I break? Well, of course, he didn't write back. So now, I go into the court last week, and I ask for all of my court records, everything on the record that are, against me, court records, outstanding warrants of some kind, because they said they had a court decree against me. They had a court order against me. Well, the court order has to be registered with the court, right? So I asked for my court order. I asked for their records on anything that's outstanding in my name and my address. The guy gets on the computer and he says, there's nothing. I said, how's that possible? I was in here last year and found guilty of something. Why isn't it on your system? He says, oh, that's Land and Property Service. They're not part of the court. They're not part of the whole legal thing. They do this on their own. They're a private company. What the hell? That's like McDonald's.
Yeah, of course.
You're telling me like McDonald's can hand out court summonses and then bring you into a fake court and find you guilty of something? What is going on here? We're not asking questions. That's what's going on. We're making assumptions that whenever something comes, it must be from the court. It's not.
Yeah.
And you've got to start asking questions. I also went to a company in London who do a sweep of all the courts in Britain, right?
Yeah.
And I paid them money, and I said, okay, could you do a sweep of all the courts? Because I wanted to see if my court order was on it. No. There's nothing in my name against me or my property. So what is this? This is a private company. LPS, Land and Property Service, is a privately owned company. It's an American company. It's being traded on the stock market. This isn't the government. The government has privatized all these different departments, and they're now corporations. And that's the problem. We're not looking at them like they're private corporations. We think it's the government. It's not. This isn't the government anymore.
And that's part of the whole outsourcing as a system. They don't want to own anything, but they want to control everything. It's something that the Rothschilds or the Rockefellers mentioned, and that's how you do it. Walter, we're going to have to let you go because we have another guest to come on. A big thank you for coming on. Great information. We're definitely going to have to do a part 2 on the legal side because this is definitely very intriguing, and to find out all about it is going to be very interesting. So we will pencil in part 2 in a couple of months' time. We'll get you back on. We'll talk about it. For now, a big thank you for coming on. I'm going to pass you over to Steve. Steve's going to get all your contact details from, as we say, I normally say where they can track you down and find you.
Yeah, no, we don't want people tracking them down and finding them and going hunting them. Anyway, yeah, Walter, great information. A lot of positive feedback on the chat room. A lot of questions as well. Apologies for questions that we did not get to. But in the meantime, if people want to find out more about Walter Graham and what he's doing and how they can help you in the fight that you are fighting, how can they do that?
Well, I guess through you is one way. You've got all my contacts anyway, but yeah. I mean, I've got an email. If you want to email me, that's fine too. It's Walter Graham Walter at yahoo.co.uk. So that's Walter Graham Walter at yahoo.co.uk. I'll write back.
No, that's brilliant. Well, if anybody wants to get in touch with Walter, by all means, contact us at info@oymradio.com, and then we'll pass on your email to Walter, and we'll do that. While Walter, stay with us there for a minute. We're just going to a quick musical break, and we'll be back after this.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMradio.com and PeoplesInternetRadio.com.
Okay, we're back. Good information there from Walter Graham. Walter at yahoo.co.uk. if you want to send Walter an email. If you just stick his name into a search engine, you will find lots of information in relation to Walter and what he's done, and we should have a couple of podcasts also up in the podcast section where he has been on with us before, and he's definitely in the YouTube section. He's done a video up in Alan's abode.
Yeah, I mean, if you check out our video on YouTube with Walter on it, he does all the check with the smoke detector and the microwave, and you can hear all the radiation. You can pick it up with a smoke detector. So go and check it out on YouTube. Walter's on there checking it all out. Now, before we bring in our next guest, we'd just like to say we are in Studio 2 and our OYM stream is down, so most people are going to be listening to us on PIR at the moment. And we will get it sorted for the next time, but it's just one of them things. It was kind of headless chicken time before we started the show, so we just had to accept the fact that the stream wasn't working. So apologies for that, but all services will be back to normal next week.
Thankfully.
Thankfully. Right, our next guest is a chap called Cian Foley. Now, Cian is going to be talking at the Open Mind Conference. So we've asked Cian to come on the show to tell us about his background, what he does, and what he's going to be talking about. So, good evening, Cian. How are you doing?
Good evening, guys. How are you?
Not too bad at all. Cian, as I said, you're going to be at the Open Mind Conference. Like ourselves, we're going to be doing a talk. Do you want to give us a bit of a background of your bio, what you're doing, and what you've been involved in?
Yeah, I suppose it's a lifetime of problems, I suppose. I suffered with obesity my whole life. My nickname in school was Chubby. And I suppose back then fat shaming wasn't an issue, I suppose, but these days now it's much more of a thing, you know. But I spent 35 years of my life struggling with my weight. I had a brief period of respite when I was in my teenage years, when I literally starved myself to kind of get into shape in order to, you know, I suppose to try and get a date and all that kind of stuff. But as I went on in my life, and when I hit 35 years of age, I was 18 and a half stone, and like I'm 5'8", 5'9"-ish, and so I was at a very high body mass index. So what I did at that point is I started doing a bit of hiking, and I trained for 4 or 5 years with kettlebell sport and hiking, and basically breaking my body to try and lose the weight. And I discovered, I suppose, quickly enough that you can't out-train a bad diet. But the problem I had, I suppose, is that I didn't understand what a bad diet actually was, because I grew up with the concept of the low-fat diet that everyone seems to kind of buy into, and we have this fear in Ireland of fat as if it's kind of like some sort of an old fear of the devil or something that Catholics kind of have as a hangover. But we have this fear of low-fat foods, and you see in supermarkets and things like that you have low-fat yogurts and things like that, but they're loaded with sugar, you know. And this all kind of stems from some research in the 60s that was done in Harvard. And if you look up the sugar scandal online, you can Google it. You'll see that scientists were essentially, and top scientists were essentially influenced by the sugar industry in order to find in favour of low-fat diets. And because of that, then you can see the last 40, 50, 60 years, the obesity crisis has become something that's on an epidemic scale. You have children, 1 in 3 children now are going to develop diabetes in their adulthood life, if not earlier. And there's 2 in 3 adults in Ireland are either overweight or obese, and it doesn't have to be like this. You know, what I discovered over the last few years is that it's all completely wrong. We're living in this artificial environment, and I term the environment the infinite autumn, essentially. So if you look at the foods that are available, sugars in particular, but all starches, all carbohydrates are typically come around in the harvest in the autumn time. I put together a kind of a spreadsheet of all the different harvests and put in their glycemic index value, their GI value. Everyone knows what GI is. They've heard of high GI foods. And you can see this peak sugar happening in the autumn time. And I just put 2 and 2 together, and we know that a lot of the animals in the animal kingdom put on weight for the winter time. Squirrels put on weight. Some animals hibernate. They put on a bit of fat before the winter, and essentially, I believe that human beings are very similar. We're animals, same as other animals, and we adapted to our ecosystems. But today, everything is artificial. We've modern storage. We've preservatives. We have deep freeze. we have transport, we have all these things that make us have all these autumnal foods available all year round, 365, and we're eating them 3 to 6 times a day between snacks and our staple, our meals as well. So what I did was, I kind of managed to get down to about 14.5 stone on the paleo diet, which is a kind of an all-natural Stone Age type diet. And I done very well with kettlebells. I was competing internationally for Ireland, and I won a World Championships and 2 European Championships. And that was from just training hard. But I got to 14.5 stone, and still had this kind of dad bod, I suppose, if you want to call it that. And what I did was, I started cutting out autumnal foods from 1 or 2 meals a day. And by autumnal foods, I mean all starches, all sugars. And all of a sudden, I got down to about 12 stone and got in really good shape and started doing things that I didn't even believe were possible at my age. I'm 41 years of age now, and I can do things now that I couldn't do when I was 18 years of age, you know. And this is all from, and so basically the concept I have is called Don't Eat for Winter, which means stop eating autumnal foods 3 to 4 to 6 times a day, which we do in all our meals and all our snacks.
Right, okay, that sounds interesting. You know, because we hear about, you know, all these fad diets and the diets going around, and everybody trying out everything. And myself and Steve could do it, losing a bit of weight, Steve. I think we can agree on like that. We like our food, but we do try and cut down on certain things, and we have to be aware of, you know, certain foods. We keep away from the aspartames and the MSGs and all that kind of stuff. And we were just talking to Walter about the water and how bad the water is with the fluoride. Budget dictates an awful lot, Cian. And the trouble is that a lot of people don't have the money. You know, we all know it's actually it's cheaper to eat bad food and dearer to eat healthy food. And that's the problem, is that the healthy food is more expensive. People are on tight budgets. The government are doing what they're doing. They want your blood and everything else with it. And that's the problem. So how do you focus on a diet that's going to be good for you with a very small budget?
Yeah, I suppose that's true to some extent, but a lot of people are eating in fast food restaurants, and they are getting the food relatively cheap, and things like cereals are obviously quite cheap as well. But you can actually, you know, get some really good foods for very good value in a lot of the supermarkets. They often have like specials on 6 types of vegetables or 6 fruits every week. Things like organic eggs and, you know, free range eggs are quite reasonable as well. And even things like meats and stuff, if you buy them in supermarkets and you buy, and you know, obviously in butchers and smaller retail units, you will get very good value, you know, and you can get really good organic food as well, for a good price. Compared to, I mean, you could go out to like the likes of McDonald's or somewhere like that, and you're paying £8 for a meal out there. I mean, it's not cheap either, you know, to be eating that kind of food as well. So I don't know if that's. I think it's more of a time issue for people, that they think that preparing food, that natural food, it takes a long time, and it's more inconvenient. But like what I suggest to people is keep it simple, and don't look at the big complicated Jamie Oliver type recipes where it could take you. I know, and he does some fast, quick recipes as well. But it's to keep it very, very simple. I mean, putting a few fillets of salmon in the oven, it doesn't take long, or cooking up an omelette, or a few poached eggs, that kind of stuff. It doesn't take long, and it doesn't take much to prepare it. So I find it quite easy to live this way. It's just a matter of changing it a little bit and preparing it a little bit more as well. Like when I'm trucking on a few, say, boiled eggs in the morning, I go off from my shower, leave them boil away, and then I cook a few extras so that I can have them to maybe snack on, later in the week or whatever, because they'll keep as well. So I don't think expense is the main issue there. I think it's more to do with convenience, and people just want to go out and get something quick, pick it up on the way home. I
think you're right about time. I was watching a TV program the other day, and the lady was interviewing this guy who was promoting a vegan diet and saying how healthy he was. And the lady said, well, that's fantastic, but the one thing that you don't say to people is the amount of time it takes to prepare the food. And she has a point. As you just said, it's not just about the money, it's about the time and the convenience of the food. And I have to agree with that, because everybody's busy lives, kids and all that kind of stuff. And then you have your arguments with maybe your kids or your partner who is not interested in eating any of that food, and they just want to have the convenience of fast food or whatever. and then you have to battle with that as well. And I think that's a fair comment. If all your family is on the same hymn sheet, happy days. But chances are kids will want certain things, and so that's what you're up against. But so as you say, if you can create and produce food quickly, that's good for you, and stay away from the sugars and the starches and stuff like that. I think that'd be a good thing.
How quick, when you say prepare foods quickly, I mean, in your opinion, what is quick healthy food for you?
Well, that's the thing, you see. So a lot of people consider my diet maybe some parts of it unhealthy, because that's what we've been taught as well. I mean, things like how many eggs are good for you every day. Is saturated fat good for you or bad for you? I mean, there's experts out there will tell you all sorts of things. But typically, my day would be I'd have a couple of rashers and a couple of eggs for breakfast, for example, or a bit of salmon for breakfast with or avocado and nuts, that kind of stuff. And that doesn't. It takes 5 minutes to literally to fry up a couple of eggs and grill a couple of rashers. Do you know what I mean? So it's not okay. It's quicker to put in a bowl of cornflakes, crunching out cornflakes into a bowl and put milk on it. But you're simply loading up your blood with high GI foods immediately in the morning, and you're going to get hungry by 10:30, 11 o'clock if you eat that way. Whereas I have to actually start thinking about food again at lunchtime before to actually kind of force myself to eat it, because I'm so full from the breakfast and so satiated from the breakfast itself. And what people, you talk about people being, not wanting to have the healthy food. I think the major problem there is that we're so addicted to the carbohydrates and sugars that our minds are literally in this gorge squirrel mode the whole time, where we constantly have to eat those kind of sugars to feed hormones in our body and feed chemicals in our body. So if you look at what those kind of foods actually do to us, and starches as well. Starches are typically just non-sweet sugar. They literally cause a massive blood sugar spike, first of all, and then you have an insulin response to that. But not only have you got an insulin response, which is, it's pushing the sugar into our cells, we also then have other responses like our leptin levels are modified. Leptin is a hormone in our bodies that our brain uses to determine how much body fat we have. But some foods will actually lower our leptin levels in our body. So fructose, for example, which is contained in a lot of the high fructose corn syrups in soft drinks, for example, they will actually lower your leptin levels. Your body thinks then that it doesn't have as much body fat as it should have, and then your hunger levels go up. And then there's another hormone called ghrelin, which is basically telling your stomach, when your stomach becomes empty, it's like the red light on the fuel tank goes on and saying, I need some food. And so stuff like sugar and carbohydrates will cause that red light to come on much quicker than it would with healthy fats and proteins, for example. And then you have another chemical response in your brain, a dopamine response, which gives you that fixed feeling. So all of these things combined, it's a multi-pronged approach to how the food affects our body. And literally, you can explain it all with science, but what I boil it down to is autumnal instinct, that our bodies are programmed to think that winter is coming, and if we don't eat these foods, we're not going to survive. And that's it comes down to adaptation and evolution and all that kind of thing. So if you take out those sugary and starchy foods from all the meals in your diet, and it's just, if the particular combination is high sugar, high fat, which is the real autumnal signature, and that signature is in things like natural foods in autumn, like acorns, for example. It's the same signature as human baby milk, and it's the same signature of practically every single junk food out there. That triggers the ultimate response in our squirrel response in our bodies. But if you tame that response, what will essentially happen then is other foods then start singing out to you. So you reduce the volume of the autumn siren as such, and then you can start hearing the nutrients that you need for your body. So then what I do then is I simply listen to my body and I go, okay, I've had salmon one day, and the next day I'm not going to be interested in it because I have all the omega-3s that I need and I have all the nutrition I need from it. So I'll be interested in something else the next day. And you can really, if you cut out that noise of sugar, then all of a sudden then your body starts acting correctly.
And that's the biggie, isn't it? That's the biggie, isn't it? Is the sugar is the killer. Tell us, Cian, because we only have a few minutes left, about the Open Mind Conference. What are you going to be talking about, and tell us all about it.
Yes, so I'm really excited about the Open Minds Conference. It's more really to do with meeting all the other speakers and the people coming to it. It looks like a fantastic event with an amazing panel of speakers. It's going to be a total hotbed of kind of exploration of various different topics from loads of different experts. So it's really exciting. Obviously, it's on between the 2nd and 4th of March in Dooley's Hotel, and I'm on the 4th. I think it's the Sunday evening. But what I'm going to be talking about simply is why sugar is not as sweet as we think. So the title of the presentation is "Sugar isn't that sweet," and I'll be going into basically a lot of the information I talked about today, but and a hell of a lot more about all the different things, how sugar affects our bodies and how these autumnal instincts are primed, and literally it'll kind of show people. If they're living in a particular way, that it's actually not that difficult to fight obesity even if somebody has just a few pounds of weight hanging on to them and they're training really hard, how to just eat correctly so that you take on the form that you were designed. I mean, we're all adapted and evolved to be perfect creatures in nature. And that wiring has all been messed up because of our current environment, the Western diet and modern heating systems. So I'll present all that and just show people that it actually isn't difficult to live in this way, and it's really a modification of a Stone Age or a Paleolithic type diet, and show people the results that you can get from that, you know. So as I said, I'm 41 years of age now, and I used to have trouble with my knees going downstairs and all this kind of thing, and now I'm jumping up on the boxes with one leg and pistol squats and handstand push-ups and all this kind of stuff, and it actually, I have to pinch myself because I 5 years ago I was so obese and so down on myself and not knowing how to fight. My core mission, I suppose, now at the moment is to just help people who are in the same situation that I was in a few years ago and show them that, look, you can become what you were designed to be. You take a perfect form, your summer form, and that's really, really what I'm going to be talking about. So I can't wait for it.
Yeah, no, it's going to be good. There's going to be a lot of speakers over 3 days. By the way, all that stuff that you mentioned, I do that before breakfast every morning.
I do it after breakfast. All those pistol squats. I don't even know what a pistol squat is. And
then I wake up. No, it sounds very interesting. As you say, with 3 days down in Dooley's Hotel, then in Waterford, the 2nd, 3rd and 4th. We're on the 3rd, we're on Saturday morning, and that's when we'll be doing our talk. But all this stuff I think is very interesting. I think it's very important for the likes of people like yourself to, now I don't know, we're going to get your contact details now in a minute, but do you offer actually training courses where you'll get a group of people come in and you'll teach them this stuff, like the food, how to prepare, what food to get, and how to do it?
Yeah, I've done quite a few corporate talks on it for employee well-being, but I don't really want to go down the route of doing one-on-ones or group sessions and things like that, because I think that I don't like. If you look at the kind of weight, the slimming clubs and all that stuff that's out there, it's weighing people in, and it seems very over-commercial. And so what I have is I put everything I know into book form. The book's called Don't Eat for Winter, and that's kind of, I just want to get the information out there as wide and as far as possible, as quickly as possible, and to help people through using their own intellect to select foods that are suitable for them, because everyone is different. Everyone has their own likes and dislikes. So it's more about that really. And I have a Facebook page called Don't Eat for Winter as well, and I'm putting tips up on that every single day for people, and it's getting a fantastic response so far. So I just want to keep on pushing the word out. If I do one-on-ones and things like that, I'm limiting my time to helping individuals, whereas I think the message needs to get out faster than that, because we're in a massive crisis, and I think I can help a wider audience in this way.
But do you not think that maybe doing videos, because I tell you why, we had Bernadette Bowen's going to be speaking at the Open Minds Conference, and Bernadette has been on our show a few times, and we've said it to Bernadette, like if you give me a recipe book, I'm no good. Right, I'm no good.
Yeah.
I get the 3 or 4 recipes, ingredients, and I'm lost. Right. I watch these cooks and they talk, and there's so many assumptions being made. Okay, you have to get flour. Well, there's kind of 5 different types of flour. There's so many assumptions being made. So you have to break it down. And I think the best way to reach your audience, to be honest with you, Cian, would be probably doing videos. So you can back that up with your book and everything else, and do, say, a video and have your YouTube channel or whatever, media you want to use for that with your videos. But showing people, and I said this to Bernadette, physically getting your ingredients, or getting this, various, not all your ingredients, because you want to sell books to make money and all that, but obviously getting some of the ingredients and showing people on video what to do. It makes so much, because our society is changing at the moment, where we used to Years ago, you'd sit beside the expert, and the expert would teach you how to do things, and that's how you learned. Now everything seems to be, here's a DVD, here's a book, here's that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people, like I'm a qualified IT trainer, and a lot of people don't learn in a book. They learn different ways. Some people learn by writing, by looking at things, by scribbling things down, by hearing. Everybody learns differently, and this is the problem. We can't make the assumption that just because we produce a book that everybody's going to get it. So I think this is why the benefit of having the videos are quite good. And even if you took, say, 2 or 3 of your recipes and said, right, we're going to put this on the video, and then you can say at the end, you can find out more about this in the book or whatever. I think, it's a big helping hand. And I know there's loads of videos out there, but the problem is there's a lot of people who are doing videos who don't know how to do videos. And one of my grumpy old man...
Here it comes.
The grumpy old man thing. What's the TV show? Room 101.
Yes.
YouTube. I put a lot of the videos on YouTube in the bin, because when you watch these videos and they're playing crap music and there's no voiceover and they're just pointing and clicking, and as I say to Steve, I've never ever been in a training class situation where the teacher put on crap music and just pointed to the blackboard and didn't talk. So this is the problem. So I think when you're doing tutorial videos, I think it is important that everything gets covered and no assumptions are made. And I wish you the best. We probably won't see you down there because you're on the Sunday. We'll be back doing our show on the Sunday. It sounds very interesting. And what we might do is we might organise a full show with you down the line. And we really get into food, because this is very important for the health of the nation and the health of people and everything else. Because we had Walter on before you talking about the dangers of Wi-Fi and fluoride and everything else. And that's another, we're being bombarded with all this technology. So as I think it was Dr. Kelly said to us, there's no point having a healthy body in an unhealthy environment. Everything has to be taken into account. But Cian, thanks a lot for coming on the show. Much appreciated. People will be able to see you down the open mines. But if people want to find out where you are, I'm going to pass you over to Steve, and Steve's going to get all your contact details.
Well, I'm going to say great information, Cian. We'd love to do a full show with you, definitely, because there's a lot of avenues we could definitely go down. We do have your website here, don'teatforwinter.com, where you can actually buy a copy of the book. It's not massive money, and I'm sure it's worth every penny. So we would urge people to go and check out the website. And if you're having trouble with your weight, or you just want to, another book to peruse over, because the cold winter evenings, and one that's probably going to enrich your life in some way, then buy the book. It's not going to break the bank. But Cian, is there any other beside the website and the Facebook page, any other places where people can find you? But I'm guessing you're not on YouTube if you don't do the videos, obviously.
No, I am, but I do videos on the Facebook page and show people how to do things. Like one of the things I did was a January challenge for people, 10 steps of, for helping with losing a bit of Christmas weight, and all that stuff is there. There's videos on that page. But if you look on the site at the moment, I have the latest blog post gives basically all of the details of how I eat on a daily basis on the thing. So I give out all this information for free. It's people's choice if they want to then support the concept then by getting a copy of the book or whatever. But the main thing is I want to get the information out there freely to everybody in any way I can. So I will look at doing more YouTube stuff. But if you look at the blog, you'll see the latest post has all the information on the diet that I would eat on a daily basis. So it's worth just checking that out for people,
Brilliant stuff.
And there is an animated thing on the website there as well, where people can see how you were, obviously before, and how you look now. Talk about Operation Transformation. Absolutely fantastic. Well done and fair play to you.
Big change there. All right, Cian, stay with us there for a minute. We'll just go over to a musical break, and we'll be back after this.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMradio.com and peoplesinternetradio.com.
Okay, we're back. Almost out of time there. Sorry, we didn't have enough time to play the whole record. Sorry. The twist, yeah. So if you're trying to lose the Christmas weight, hopefully you were up jumping around to that. I know we were. Anyway.
Well, you do say about the body. A lot of people say, at Christmas they're going to go on a diet. And that's the bad time to do it, because our bodies are designed to store fat on the winter.
Yeah.
Because we are animals, you know. So that's the bad time. And then people say, I don't know why I'm not losing the weight. I've done loads of exercise and watched my diet and I'm not losing the weight. Well, our bodies are programmed not to lose the weight because it's winter. We store the fat. Best time to do it would be in the summer.
Yeah.
But
I'm just fascinated because for my lunch and work, Monday to Friday, I eat salads.
You don't.
I eat salad every lunchtime, Monday to Friday. Salad.
Yeah, like me. I eat salad every day. Look at my stomach.
No, genuinely, if you're ever in Aldi, they do these pre-packed salads in Aldi, probably not the best, but it's just a bowl of salad. Yeah. And there's like peppers and all stuff in there, and they're lovely. It's only $1.79. There's a plug for Aldi, a shameless plug. And look at the size of it.
But you have to exercise. Now, I know you work in a warehouse, and I know you're busy.
Yes.
You know. But it's you know, as Dr. Terry Wallace said, she was a vegetarian and then she went back to being a meat eater. And she said, even with vegetarians, if you're not feeling you're losing the weight, then you must be eating the wrong food.
Yeah.
So, and that's what she said, and that's her research and everything else. And I suppose she has a point. Doesn't matter whether you're a vegetarian or a meat eater or a vegan, if you're eating the wrong food, it's the wrong food. And if there's sugars and starch and everything else in them, well then, obviously, you know, you're not going to lose the weight as much as going on and, you know, going for the fruit and vegetables and all that kind of stuff. Anyway.
You still juicing, yeah?
I'm going to get back into juicing.
So that's a no.
That's a no. I did buy some cauliflower and a few bits and pieces. We have Bernadette Bowen sent us a copy of our raw book, which is very nice of her. And there's a few things in there that I want to kind of get into and just try it again. And you know, I do need a bit of training. I have to admit, I'm no good with books. I prefer somebody saying, here's what you do and how to do it, and here's the amount and everything else. Once I do that, then I'm happy. And this is why I said about YouTube is near enough good enough for that, but you can't beat somebody in the same room showing you what to do.
No,
you know?
Totally agree.
You know,
totally agree.
So I think that would be, you know, something that I'd like to book in somewhere, get somebody to do a day with or something, or a couple of hours, and learn about all this and know what food to buy and what to look out for, because I'm no expert and I don't claim to be. So I'm just going to do my best, as we all do. The show next week will be, we've called it Challenging Thomas Williams, and the reason why we called it that is because Thomas comes out with great intel and great information. And obviously, that opens him up to attack from people, saying, we don't believe you, da-di-da-di-da-di-da. So what we've decided to do is compile a list of questions, plus there's questions come in from listeners who listen to the show as well. And, you know, we're not going to be mentioning any names or where the questions are coming from. Yeah, they'll be completely anonymous. But we will ask Thomas the questions, and Thomas doesn't want to see the questions before the show, which is great, because that means he'll be answering from the heart as opposed to answering from the mind. So we're compiling a list of questions. If you want to ask Thomas any stuff that, you know, if you want to question where he's getting the information from, who THI is, who's the foundation are, anything like that, send us in the questions to info@oymradio.com, and we'll put it on the list. And then next week we're going to be talking to Thomas, and we're going to be going through all these questions. Now, we haven't done this show ever before with Thomas or with any guest, and chances are we'll never be doing it again. So make sure you tune in and have a listen. And if you have any questions, let us know. If you want to get in the chat room, as you know, we've had to lock the chat room down. If you want to get into the chat room, send us an email with the username and password, your name and the password you want, and we'll set it up. Please don't email us 2 hours before the show, because we are always up to our eyes getting things done. We won't have time to be doing usernames and passwords. If you want to jump in on the chat room and talk to everybody else there, do it a few days before the show. Okay? That's just because we won't be entertaining it. Okay, we're too busy, too many things to be doing without trying to do username and passwords. You're generally in the jacuzzi before the show, just relaxing. I am with a martini, typing up the unscripted script and doing all that kind of stuff. So that's what's happening next week. Now, also somebody put up on the PIR chat room about Harry. Harry Rhodes is going to be on in the week after Thomas. So we're going to get Harry on. He's going to be talking about chemtrails, chembusters, and all that stuff, and the technology and how it works, and the work he's been doing and everything else. And we also have another chap coming on talking about, the orgonite pyramids and all that stuff. He makes them and he sells them, and they're really, really beautiful pieces of art, fantastic looking, but brilliant at what they do. So that's Vincent. He's going to be coming on in a few weeks' time, and we have a few of the guests that we've emailed, and we're waiting on replies back from as well. So it's all happening. It's all going. It's all going down. So just keep an eye on the time there.
1 minute to go.
God, it's that time. Okay. For myself, Alan James, take it easy. Have a safe week. And if there's any information that you think we should be looking at, or any videos, send them off to us. That'd be brilliant. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Okay, my final words. I just want to apologise for the OYM stream this evening. Hopefully the next time we won't assume, or I won't assume, that it's just going to work at the click of a button. We will sort it out and test it beforehand. So apologies for that. So hopefully it didn't take too much, didn't disrupt your listening pleasure anyway. Okay, we're going to hand it over to People's Internet Radio, and live at 9, Stephen Manning is going to be on talking about Joe Ducey, an innocent man framed and jailed for fighting corruption in Ireland. So stay tuned for that. That's coming up next week. Catch you again next week. So take care. Until then, bye-bye.